Hey everybody, Paul here. Today I'm going to be talking about the difference between a factura and a nota and which one you should ask for when paying for any types of goods or services. I know that some of you have no idea what I'm even talking about, so I'm going to start this one by telling you a little personal story from my own experiences here in Mexico. When Linda and I first moved to Mexico in 2015, we had a lot of things to get done. We needed to finish the paperwork for our residency so we could get our little cards, get our driver's licenses, etc. We learned quickly that government offices in Mexico do not make copies. They'll send you somewhere else. So we decided to go ahead and buy a printer. So I go down to Office Depot in Playa del Carmen. Yes, they have Office Depot in Mexico. And I pick out a cheap printer. Well, when I go to pay, the lady at the register asked me if I want a factura. Well, I already speak Spanish at this time when I moved to Mexico, so I was familiar with the word. I took it to mean like receipt or invoice is how I would typically use factura when I was in the US. So I asked for that. I'm like, sure. And then she asked me for my RFC. And I was like, my what? And then she asked again, what is your RFC? So I pause and I'm like, And she says, you don't know your RFC? I said, ma'am, I don't even know what an RFC is. So she sighs and she says, do you just want a nota, which is like a note? I was like, okay. And then she goes, prints out a standard receipt and hands it to me. So I'm a little confused, but I'm happy. I got a receipt. So with the exception of like going to restaurants and grocery stores, anytime I'm buying other things, I'm continually being asked if I want a factura. Even if we hired somebody to do something at the condo, like install blinds or something like that, they were also asking if I wanted a factura. And if I ever said yes, they asked me for that RFC again. I quickly learned to answer no to the factura question and sí to the nota question. I later learned that there are times when I might need a factura. And, I also learned what that RFC thing is too. And you're going to know all of these things by the end of this video. You're welcome. First things first, what's a factura? Well, it is a receipt, but it's an official tax receipt that is immediately and electronically sent to Mexico's version of the IRS, known as SAT. The RFC that everyone kept asking me for is an alphanumeric tax identifier similar to a Social Security number. You can obtain an RFC if you're a Mexican citizen or a legal resident in the country. So this is different from the CURP that I've talked about in other videos. That's another alphanumeric identifier. It's just not used for tax purposes. There's a lot of numbers down here in Mexico, a lot of numbers. A nota, or sometimes called a ticket, is your standard receipt, you know, the one that just print out and they give you like at the grocery store. So why would you even need a factura? Well, you'll need one for anything you plan on taking deduction on if you're paying any kind of taxes in Mexico, or let's say, you're selling property and you want to go ahead and show that, say, you made certain improvements on the property to help offset some tax burden you may have. That's when you need to ask for those facturas. They're going to come in really handy. But what if you're just a tourist or a part-time resident in Mexico and you rent a place? So you're not worried about, tax burdens later with trying to sell places. Why would you ever need a factura? And if you did need a factura and you don't have an RFC, how would you handle that? Well, there is one common situation that some tourists find themselves in where they should ask for a factura. And that is when they need to get emergency medical care in Mexico. And you know how that happens. You've had one too many tequilas by the hotel pool. You slip when you're getting out and you crack your melon open. Next thing you know, you're at the ER getting stitched up. That sort of thing happens more often than you might think. You want to get reimbursed from your insurance company for those costs, right? Well, many insurance companies will request a formal tax receipt or factura in order to do that, in order for you to get your money. I've been blogging about Mexico for many years now. I'm vlogging now, but I was blogging. And in that time, I've heard from lots of people who came to Mexico on vacation and had to get emergency medical treatment. And when they got home, they were really disappointed because they're fighting with their insurance companies because their insurance companies won't pay because they didn't take the time to get this formal receipt or factura at the time of treatment. Oh, that's something else. Most businesses put a small window of time when you can actually get a factura, like when they'll issue you one. You'll often see a sign that says, facturas must be requested at the time services rendered or the time the product was bought. Something to that effect. Otherwise, you're pretty much SOL. So let's say you're a tourist and you get hurt in Mexico. Well, you don't have an RFC, right? So what do? How are you going to get this Factura? Well, all you have to do is tell the hospital that you do not have an RFC because you're a foreigner, and they should input the generic one for foreigners. Or you could just watch this video again while you're waiting to be treated, and then just give them the generic RFC that appears on the screen. You know, your call, however you want to play it. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you found it informative. Until next time, hasta luego.